touch on. First thing, I'd say for me, the most important thing is that I have two amazing kids, and becoming a dad was definitely something that I wanted to be in my life. So I'm very happy that that was something that I achieved. And so I'm really proud of that, about being a dad. In terms of business success, there's been a number of things, along the way. When I was younger, I had, any number of interesting experiences in research, and there were a few things that I wanted to get involved in, and going into government contractors and getting invited into Black Project to design equipment for the Navy's next generation mini sub, which is what led to LifeWave, was really a dream come true. It was an incredible experience. I am very happy to be out of that world, especially now, but it gave birth to LifeWave. And so that was really an incredible journey and an incredible opportunity. And of course, putting 10 years and almost $4.5 million into research dedicated to coming up with a stem cell product, which led to X39. That's been unbelievably rewarding, because the journey that was the journey was just as rewarding, I suppose, as where we are today. When you're an inventor and you develop things, maybe one out of every 20 or 30 products that you develop are going to turn into something that you actually sell. The reason to create things and run experiments is that it's all about learning. You try to uncover some of the secrets embedded in nature, and then say, okay, well, do I stop here or do I keep going? And that was very much, the evolution with X39. We kept uncovering new and better ways of doing things with stem cells, with X39, being at the pinnacle. And of course, at the end of the day, when you have a product that changes people's lives in such a dramatic way, that's incredibly rewarding.
Yes, it is.
Been in that place. When I started LifeWave, I took over my son's bedroom. He was 4 years old at the time, and I turned that into my first home office for LifeWave. I had my research lab out of my garage, and that's where I was doing some of my work. I had another lab up in the mountains near Dahlonega, Georgia, for people know where that is. It's actually the site of the gold rush in the United States, interestingly enough. But it's an incredibly important message for entrepreneurs. LifeWave, it took 2 years to get off the ground. And so that meant I had to do clinical research to prove that the prototypes were working. They were doing what we said, had to figure out how to manufacture them in large volume. And then, of course, had to figure out how we're going to market these things. So that was a 2-year process. And before we ever reached the level of success that we have today, we launched the company in 2004, and we took off with our stem cell product in 2018. So, about 14 years of persistence and patience. We did fine, all those years, but nothing like what we're seeing today. So it's a great lesson for entrepreneurs. There's a number of things, like yourselves. I'm a person of faith, and I pray over everything that I do. And usually what I found over the years is that when you pray, God's going to open up doors. And when you're doing something, we see this in our research lab, when we work on something and there's a lot of obstacles, I get the sense, oh, this is not the direction I'm supposed to go in. Something's wrong here. And then you pray over it, and you try another approach. And then all of a sudden, it's like all of those obstacles, fall down. And that's the way that you're supposed to go. And what had happened was I had developed an engine for emergency systems for submarines. And this was a turbine engine, but unlike most turbines, it didn't have any blades inside of it. It worked on a vortex phenomena. And I was driving around. I was driving from Dahlonega back to Beaufort, Georgia, where I was living at the time. And I was driving around this beautiful lake. And the thought came into my mind that there must be a vortex structure inside the cell. And as I began to think about this, I realized what it was. And so then it meant that you could have a device that would communicate to the cells through this vortex channel. I just explain it simply. There's a lot more to it, but it basically meant that. And so I took about 3 years then to try to figure out how to tap into this phenomena, which led to the patches. And they worked the very first time. And I knew I really was onto something. When I was in college, there were only, out of a large group of friends, there were only 2 of us that wanted to be entrepreneurs. And so I went to school in New York, and all of our friends wanted, to work for IBM, work for big accounting companies. Like, no, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. So my friend and I, we would go to different types of opportunity meetings looking to see, well, how can we be an entrepreneur? And we ended up going to meetings for a number of networking companies. And I was the person in the audience asking the technical questions about, how does the water filter work and all those kind of things. And I could never get an answer, so never joined one. And like a lot of people, I had not a good experience with the network marketing industry because of some of the players that I met. But when I started LifeWave and was doing an evaluation of how to market this, I was thinking about radio and TV. I approached GNC, who wanted to market the product, looked at infomercials and talked to companies about doing that. We did some testing. And I had an experience where a fellow that was a business friend introduced me to somebody. We had a business lunch, and then he ran into somebody in a movie theater who was interested in investing in LifeWave. I met with that guy, and then he introduced me to a medical doctor who introduced me to another medical doctor who was friends with Coach Richard Quick at Stanford University. So in about a 3-week period of time, I went from sitting at a lunch in Buford to being out at Stanford University putting patches on Olympic swimmers with Richard Quick, a 6-time US Olympic coach. And when I really thought about that, I said, this would never have happened with the product sitting on the shelf at GNC. Would never happen. Yeah. This is all networking. I need to go back and reevaluate this. And so in July of 2004, I flew out to California. I was invited there by Coach Quick to see the Olympic trials. And when I landed, he said, well, we have an issue. The Olympic Committee thinks that there's drugs in these patches, and they want you to, explain what the technology is. So I met with this fellow, Dr. Scott Rodeo, explained what the patches were. They took them down to UCLA microanalytical lab, validated, there were only natural materials in the patches, and we were vindicated. But over 1,000 people contacted me wanting to buy the product and be a distributor for this new technology. And I was like, okay, the alarm bells went off. Clearly, what God is telling me, this is supposed to be a network marketing company. And 3 months later, on November 10th of 2004, we started sales. We did $500,000 in business our very first month, and wow. 17 million in sales for 2005. So it was a very, very clear sign. This was where our home was supposed to be.
Wow, that's cool. It's funny because Steve, Jean, and I often talk about you don't know who your friends know. Like I was introduced to this patch from a girlfriend of mine named Kathy, and Kathy was introduced to this patch from a chimney sweep. But, the chimney sweep had no idea that Kathy was good friends with Onyx Cole. And so that's true for all of us. When you all are introducing the X39 to people, you don't know who your friends know. So it's incredible. Just like Steve said at the beginning, sometimes it just takes one person on your left and one person on your right, and boom, you have a massive business going.
It's somewhere north of 130. I stopped counting a while back. And I actually, just yesterday, I got a notice from my patent attorney that I got issued another patent. So it's somewhere in the 130s, I think. But I know it's over 132 because that was the last time I counted, and that was sometime last year. And for me, my benchmark is my Uncle Paul, So
Right.
my uncle Paul Schmidt worked for Bell Labs for many years, and the transistor or transistor tech that you find in cell phones and computers were things that he invented many decades ago now. So I have some inventors that run in the family. My cousin is an inventor for the Department of Defense and does stuff that he won't tell me about. Yeah, so I come from a family of inventors, which is kind of nice. So we're a little bit competitive about it. But if I never got another patent, I'd be pretty happy. I've been incredibly blessed. So that's a fantastic question. So in the late 2000s, I was thinking about what would be coming next. So one of the things that's really important, and actually I'm going to be talking about this in Aruba, is what does the future look like for LifeWave? So we have a very exclusive group that'll be there, and I want to open up the door a little bit and talk about that. But I generally try to think about 5, 10, 20 years in advance of where technology is going, so we can anticipate what's the future going to look like and how are we going to be a part of it. So if technology is heading in a specific direction, then you have time to really plan and be part of some big trends. So the thing that was standing out to me was, at the time, we had energy enhancer, ice wave, silent nights. We had our YH products. And so we were in the business of anti-aging and lifestyle. But I wanted to take the company into a new generation and have that be regenerative science. And stem cells, it was very clear this was going to be the future. So looking back, from 2008, it was very clear that stem cell injections would be common, it would be widespread, and it would probably be very expensive and come with a degree of risk. So what can we do to make stem cell science and stem cell medicine affordable and make it safe? So at first, I thought that it was going to require some type of machine to do this. Wow. And I began the research by analyzing DNA and the electromagnetic field that exists around DNA. And eventually, we ended up with over 70 patents. My team, I invented all of these things, but I want to give credit to my team because we have a fantastic group of engineers where they take my ideas and then we create computer models around them. We develop prototyping. We have a full and very robust 3D manufacturing center in our lab. We have a full machine shop for prototyping, and I work with phenomenal people. So we started to develop this tech, and we did our research over at the National University of Ireland in Galway. And I had made a presentation to Dr. Tim O'Brien, who's a very well-known medical doctor in the field of stem cell research. And he approved a study that was funded by Scientific Foundation Ireland. And what we showed in our first study is that you don't have to inject stem cells into the body. You can use energy to activate the stem cells that are already there. And so we went through many iterations of the tech. Some of it produced, Star Trek-like results in terms of the speed of healing. But it ultimately culminated in X39, which is, to me, the simplest, most cost-effective, and safest stem cell technology on the planet today. Anybody can use it, anybody can afford it, and it produces results that rival stem cell injections. 39 represents the 39th patch that I've invented. So not every patch makes it to market. It's really always a question of can we do something and trigger a specific pathway, learn from that, and then later on put it into a product. So X39 was the 39th product. And typically what we do, the Eon patch was X15. So we'll go through our pre-launch and we'll keep the product name a secret. We'll keep what it does a secret. And then we release the official name at the product launch. But in this case, with X39, because the benefits were so incredible, we decided to begin the pre-launch 6 months before the product release. And to build the business, we were offering free sleeves of X39. And what you had to do was basically enroll people, and the brand partner and the new brand partner coming in would each get a free sleeve. And at this point, we were also trying to figure out, what is the price point going to be? We had leaders saying, well, you should really charge $300 or $400 a month for this because that's what it's worth. And when we got a few months into this, the company was growing and we were attracting new leaders. And it was very obvious this was going to be a huge hit. Our leaders then said in late 2018 said, please don't change the name. We have momentum with the name X39. If we change it to something else, then we think it's going to be a mistake. And I absolutely agreed with our leadership. And so instead of going with a different product name, we kept X39, and the rest is history. Look at this is, I was talking to somebody else about this actually, because we're growing, we're doing different interviews for positions in the company. And the way that I expressed it was that the corporate team has a fiduciary responsibility to the brand partners, meaning that we're in a position where we have to properly support what the brand partners are doing because they depend on us. So that means we better be running our research, our manufacturing, our customer service, our regulatory, our infrastructure, all to the standards that meet all the legal requirements and then all the requirements necessary to be successful. And, in return, it becomes a cooperative relationship. So in this case with X39, the two really important decisions was we kept the name because of our leadership. And the second thing was the pricing strategy. One of our leaders said, if you really want LifeWave to be big, then let's make it available to everyone. We agree it's worth $300 or $400 a month, but let's charge $100. We're not going to make as much, but we're going to help a massive number of people. And that really resonated with me because my mission in life is to help and heal as many people as possible. I thought, this can't be about the money, right? And I agreed with it, and it was a fantastic decision. So the LifeWave technology works by stimulating the body with very low levels of light. So if we went back to the 1970s, a researcher in Germany by the name of Fritz Popp was the one that really discovered that there were light emissions off human body, off plants and animals. And these light emissions were highly coherent. They were as coherent as laser pulses. And so nothing ever happens by accident in biological systems. So if we're detecting light coming off the body, there must be a reason for it being there. And later research determined that these pulses of light are triggering thousands of different biochemical reactions within the cell at any one time. So our bodies, we are literally beings of light, and we're using light for communication. And because our body emits light, it means that our energy field, our light body, in not an esoteric sense or spiritual sense, in a very real physical sense, is interacting with the people around us. So, the way this technology is designed is to tap into that code, understand the code that we were created with, and how does our body use light to trigger these reactions and then use a technology to tap into it. So the patches contain organic materials that are processed in a very specific way so that when activated by body heat, they will stimulate the body with very low levels of light. This stimulation turns an enzyme on in the cell called cytochrome C oxidase. It's part of the electron transport chain. This increases the metabolism of the cell, and genes are expressed to turn on synthesis of specific peptides like copper peptide, GHKCU, in the case of X39. So the short answer is we stimulate the skin with light, and this causes an increase in a peptide that activates stem cells. So in the early days, back in 2002, when I was looking at how to manufacture this, I worked with a medical device manufacturer so we could make this to the standards of a medical device, because it was going on people, even though our product is not regulated that way, fortunately. So we looked at all medical grade films, medical grade adhesives, and we ended up using a medical grade adhesive from 3M that is a hypoallergenic adhesive. So it's the same type of adhesive used in Band-Aids. 1 out of 10,000 people are going to be allergic to this, so a relatively small number. If someone is allergic to this type of adhesive, it's an acrylate adhesive, then they can apply the patch to the clothing on so it is in proximity to the skin. So, and we have found over the years that that works pretty well.
Okay, so someone doesn't have to wear it directly with the adhesive. They can wear it on the label of they could stick it to the label of their shirt, and that it'll work for them.
Yeah, so when we do our clinical studies, it's with the patches applied to the skin. However, empirically, what we found over the years doing pain relief demos is that you could apply the patch to clothing and still get an effect, because there is obviously infrared body heat that's going out several feet off the body. We even had a number of experiences. I would work with medical doctors and hospitals and clinics where you would take the patch and you'd start to approach the body, and maybe it would get 6 inches away and the person would feel a drop in pain. So we've actually seen those things happen too.